Bidi, Portugal, September 22, 2019. Part 2. Well, Bidi is back, and we can continue. Sister, I would like to ask 2 questions. The first, a little in the continuation of what Bidi was explaining to us. Question. In relation to agape, in business and in companies, our intention here in Portugal is to expand around the world, with the support of Bidi, all the speakers and especially our dear Jean-Luc, to start working in this specialty. Can you give us some advice? Well, be as natural as possible. Keep in mind that love is free. It cannot be organized, but indeed, agape entering the organization will terminate the organization. Laughs. It's very good like that. It may be necessary to find out where a more acceptable speech may be needed. It is not the word agape that is at issue, but rather to be careful not to mix in this introduction, somewhere, data related to energy, or spirituality, or rituals. You simply have to deliver the good news. And the system will implode from the inside. Freedom is there. As I said, there is indeed, within groups, within organizations, a form of openness, of receptivity, in which we must rush, to simply deliver the good news, and perhaps the mechanisms of functioning, to put an end to predation and competition, to replace them with cooperation and, above all, joy. At that point, there will be no resistance, there will be no confrontation, and there will be acceptance. Remember, it is your presence that is active, not your words and concepts. Indeed, organizations of all kinds are right for this. But don't make mistakes in speeches, be present, be simple, be natural, you have nothing to sell, if not be present. And there too, you'll see, for those who want to work in these fields, that everything will be done easily, smoothly and with evidence. And remember that it is, above all, your presence within an organization, which is the good news, and which is the agent acting as the breaking point. It will no longer be a disruption, but a total rupture, completely understood, if not accepted at first, but evidently, it will be too late for them, since the agape one will be in their fruit. And quite naturally, without effort, as soon as you are in the fruit, in the organization, it will be acting on its own. Just be smiling, loving, available, you don't have to seduce, you don't have to impose, but you have to be real, in your presence, the words will follow by themselves. Paradoxically, within any organization, do not leave with an intervention plan or program, everything will happen, again, according to the intelligence of the light. Because groups, organizations, actors in society are ready somewhere. And it is your presence, rather than your speech, rather than your intervention plan, that will be effective. There you go. Second question. Sister, the second question I will ask on behalf of some participants, which also concerns me, is related to organic portals. Years ago, I don't know who the speaker was, to identify an organic portal, it would only be necessary to feel, if we could do it, whether it had a heart or not. Indeed, I tried that several times, and unfortunately, I found many. There are 50% of them. And you know that in pyramidal organizations, with hierarchies, this is where you have the most opportunity to find organic portals. I remind you that what you call an organic portal acts out of mimicry and conformity. It's very easy to recognize. The rules, always the rules, but even within organizations, where there are more of them, they do not represent any real opposition force. Remember, they act by mimicry. If agape is in the fruit, they will imitate agape, too. So there is no problem, unlike a few years ago. The road is open. Act with each other with the same love. Whether it is an organic portal or not, doesn't change anything anymore. Organic or soulless portals, I repeat, act by mimicry, and if they see around them that the organization is shifting into this rupture, they will follow. They will have no intention of opposing or maintaining anything from the past. They imitate. But don't worry about this imitation, the important thing is that they can no longer represent a valid force of opposition to the truth. since nothing can stand in the way of what is written. Do not have any obstacles to this. The simpler you are, the more you will be present, the more the intelligence of the light will also act. And not only in a gate between two individuals, but directly in the organization, in the group. This is what happens in the same way in what you call encounters, when you are gathered in the same space. Even without knowing anything and without living the truth, you can only be contaminated. You're all screwed, as individuals, and it will be the same dynamic in organizations. Everything is perfect, everything is written. The time has come to deliver the good news, and the good news is you and your presence. It is the informational field of the heart, or the sacred fire of the heart, that they will recognize, before finding themselves in your possible words. The contagion is unstoppable. Agape is fatal. More and more. Anything else? Sister, I would just like to thank Bidi for being burning, especially the chest and face. Thank you very much. We can increase the power. Laughs. While you have no questions, it is not a conclusion, but a kind of synthesis. Since we have talked about individuals, groups and organizations, you must remember, somewhere, that from now on, more and more often, more and more spontaneously, you will find that your presence is activating and active. Much more than your words, much more than your speeches, or your techniques. Be spontaneous, let it be what it is. Welcoming, accepting, will effectively put an end, at the societal level, to the mechanisms of functioning that you call patriarchal, and will make society available, open to the truth. And they can only live it. In other words, Agape Resonance Network will no longer be effective not only between individuals, but as you will see, if you have time, between groups themselves, between organizations themselves, ending, in short, the more you accept Agape, the more you are in your presence, here and now, in this embrace, the more virulently your contamination will be effective. And as I just said, this time it is no longer an epidemic of individuals, toward each other, but the system will itself enter into self-combustion and Agape, damping all the more the shock of humanity linked to the event, whatever it may be. Anything else? Sister. Hello Bidi. I would like to leave my testimony here. Some time ago, I started using Agape Faham, and then, the first time I tried this resonance, I was transported to a place that was green, with many hills. I walked until I found a hole I could get in. I felt I had to go in, but I was afraid to go in. But as I felt I had to enter, what I felt was stronger than fear, and I finally entered. So when I entered this hole, I found a very pretty cave, with a lot of light and very crystal clear water. I saw my reflection in the water. I felt good, but unfortunately, every time I have experiences where I feel very good, I always wake up. Yesterday, when I used this practice again, I went back to that dream. I didn't resist when I entered, I immediately recognized the place, I entered the cave. And there was the same light, the same crystal clear water that I saw again. I heard more in the background like a waterfall, and that's when I can't get a perception if this dream happened right away when I practiced, or if it was when I was about to get up. Because when I was listening to the waterfall, my room sister came in, disturbed because the bathtub tap, was plugged. So I got up immediately, tried to turn off the tap, but it didn't work. But I didn't care about it. I took off my pajamas and took a bath. Laughs. In the meantime, since I had already taken the bath and I had not managed to turn off the tap, we're with two brothers, since we are two women and we were to turn off the tap, one of the men was called. With a simple turn, he managed to turn off the tap and asked us what was going on. My experience is this one, I stayed so quiet, also in the waterfall. Normally, I get stressed, and I stayed calm, I took the bath, I continued quietly, and hardly worried that the others might have to take their bath with cold water. My question is it possible to know what it can mean for me or for everyone here? The fact that the tap doesn't close. Laughs. Sister. No, no, the waterfall. Laughs. Sister, and to see so much water, to be in relationship with so much water, in the dream and in truth. There is an overlap of worlds. The real is unreal, the dream is the real. I've already had a chance to say that. Except that there is such an entanglement, fusion, that the tap and the waterfall are the same thing. What does that mean? The water will never stop. In macrocosmic terms, on Earth, it's called a flood. That's exactly what you're going through. Look at your screens, what they tell you about fire and water, and air. The action of the elements, in you and outside you, in consciousness, in dreams, in the physical, and everywhere. The flood, in the biblical sense, has really begun. It can only get worse. So is the action of the four elements. Since the ether is installed, tearing and cracking on all sides the myth of creation. This was explained at length by two speakers, No Eyes and Snow, who described all this to you, which is happening now. Water is the bearer of the good news. And not of dread or fear. The more water is everywhere, the more it literally informs matter that it does not exist. The same is true for you, through your vision or your dream, and the simple tap. There is a kind of synergy, of synchronicity, outside as well as inside, at the level of the individual as well as on the whole earth. There is therefore an overlap, here too, crossing, lighting and resolution. The action of the elements is evidently essential to the realization of the shock of humanity. The same is true for volcanoes, forests, earthquakes, hurricanes. All that is happening now is neither punishment nor retribution. It's not man's fault. It is the return of the truth. You see it through your visions and dreams, which now even touch the material plane. A simple tap. That is the answer. Sister, thank you, Bidi. I would like to go back, if possible, in relation to that. Before started using the Fehum frequency, I had several dreams, nightmares, where I drowned in very dirty water. And for me, it was very scary. My question is, at that moment, I was blessed with a beautiful waterfall. It simply means that water is also in dreams, in visions, on a more psychological level, the symbol of the unconscious. So your unconscious, your memories, your wounds, they've been cleaned up. Dirty water in a dream, wherever it may be, means that the unconscious is overloaded with memories, wounds, fears. It's a nightmare. And from now on, you say it yourself, the water is clean. There is therefore a real transformation, a real washing of everything that was unconscious, everything that was memorable, wounds and traumas. It contributes to your freedom. In dream analysis, this is perfectly consistent, not to mention the hole and the cave. The cave is the place of initiation, the place of secrecy, which is hidden, where one reaches through a black hole, in order to live the truth. You are the water of life, the creative water, the support of life, which was cluttered with all the stories, and which was washed by pure water. Does that mean anything to you? Sister, yes. The water of life. Laughs. Sister, the Portuguese word for water of life is burning water. Oh, yes, yes. Water is the fire of the Spirit, it is the baptism of the Spirit. This was explained by many speakers, on the waters from above, or waters of mystery, and the waters from below, the waters of the demonstration. The merging of the waters above and below is called Maim in Hebrew. Water is the source of life. I remind you that there exists above your head, in what was called the 13th body, named among the Tibetans the Vehira and named by Western mystics the crystal fountain, because crystal and water are similar to the same thing. Water is a crystal, supple, certainly, liquid, at least in the form of liquid water. But you all know that water can take many forms. Solid water, frozen water, evaporated water, steam. And even within the physical structure of water, it is not uniform. I don't know enough to tell you about it, but water, regardless of its qualities, has a different crystalline arrangement, depending on the environment. Water is fire. Sister, thank you, Bidi. I remind you that, the first sentences of the writing called Bible, it is well said, in the beginning, the Spirit was floating on the waters. Today, the Spirit has fertilized the water. It was the cetacean song that informed the water that the time had come to stop dreaming. It's the alarm clock. The song of cetaceans, which resonates in a new way, not only now, but for many years, is the good news and reread the water with the Spirit of truth, the Paraclete. The water is fertilized. The original life matrix of the first dream has been solved. The Spirit has fertilized the water. What you call a vibratory process in your bodies, through the arrival of adamantine particles, the stings you feel everywhere, through the presence of the body of eternity, is a devouring fire of love, a consummation of love. What does water do in these cases? I'm talking about physical water. It evaporates. It is a combustion, which changes the nature and manifestation of water. It is the action of the Spirit of truth on the water of your body, on the waters of the earth, on the waters of the mystery, from above. In a way, the flood is a new baptism, which is the baptism of the Spirit that is found again. Is that clear? Like clear water. Sister, clear. Very clear. I remind you that water is transparent when it is clean. It is information. And water is the good news from now on. The waters from above merge with the waters from below, in the same way that you merge your physical body with the body of eternity. It's the same thing. At the atomic, cellular, individual, collective level, on the whole earth, and in the whole of creation. Sister, she wants to ask a question, is that possible? Yes. Question. A few months ago, since I started practicing agape fame, I know that I am in a physical body, but every time more and more, I feel at home. In my daily life, it is as if I see other people on a screen and I am not part of this group, these people I see every day. Maybe it's because I've already found the truth, is that normal? Because it's not that it bothers me, I feel good about it. Who knows if it's the truth, except you? But I give you the answer. Yes, it's evident, it's normal, more than normal, it's natural. Many visual, physical phenomena, I am not talking about visions, many bodily phenomena, translate this and are related to it. There is a total concordance, where the mystery is solved, within the manifestation itself. The Spirit no longer floats on the waters, he has fertilized the waters. This is the good news, which is reflected in your vibrations, your tingling, the changes in perception and living, as you describe them. You're not crazy. It's the only real thing. The dream fades away. And you say it yourself, you feel at home. It's happening here and now, in the present instant, not anywhere else. It is in everyone's heart, even if they've not yet experienced it. It has been said, all the bodies of eternity are present, whether you perceive it or not. And it is this body of eternity that consumes water and puts the body into combustion. The combustion is real, it's not symbolic. You will really be consumed by the light. It is you who consume yourself, through acceptance and living. Everything is normal. When we say that everything that must be, is, and that everything is in its right place, it is not a pretty idea, it is the strict material truth of what you are living. Sister, she has no more questions. Thank you very much, Bidi. Thank you to you. Sister, Bidi, I would like to thank first and foremost with all the deepest love of my being who is human, for all that I have received from you over the years. Now I have a question related to agape. As a transmitter, how many times, with what frequency, should we send agape to a receiver so that he feels his freedom as much as possible? There are no rules. There is no limit, you decide nothing. And moreover, in Epa's practice without practice, you will very quickly see that you no longer need hands, you no longer need intention, you no longer need to decide, you no longer need prior posture, no prior preparation, and that everything will be done automatically and naturally. It is just a learning process that must be left as flexible as possible, without imposing itself or imposing rules or limits. Be spontaneous, embrace, and the information is there. It's done by itself. Even if they're your hands, even if they're your words, at some point you will understand that this is done without you, without the hands, without the words, as I said earlier, within organizations, by your presence, simply, without any intention or will. There is freedom and there is the natural state. There is the eternal I and there is the parade Brahman. When you really understand that you have nothing to do, that you just have to be there, here and now, for everything to happen. And now it's over. You have surrendered yourself, the sacrifice is lived and you are free. It is the state of grace, it is agape, it is the fire of the sacred heart, it is the evidence, it is naked joy, without object and without subject. It is life and no longer your life. Sister, thank you, Bidi. Silence. Is it time for a great silence? Sister, yes. They're all anesthetized. Laughs. So, I thank you for your presence, for your welcome, and I wish you a very beautiful combustion. And agape. All, agape. Thank you, Bidi. See you soon. All, see you soon. Through Jean-Luc Young. The Transformations. Translation into English. LMF.